Alrighty, good morning everybody. Happy Thursday. It is June 29th, 2023. Just a couple days from closing out this month here. And what we'll do is, hold on one second here. What we'll do is go back and take a look at what happened yesterday. So from more a zoomed out perspective, remember, ever since the lows back on whatever it was, Tuesday or Wednesday of this week, we were, well, actually all week we've been anticipating the rotation, and then the stars basically aligned, and we actually bounced off the first critical zone that I was expecting to see the rotation off of. So for a couple days now, we've been inside of this higher time frame bullish signal, which if we go up to the daily, you can see we had it up there, and we were watching this for multiple days, and then finally, back on the 26th. So I guess that was what, Tuesday or Monday. I don't know. I get the dates all mixed up. I guess it was back on Monday. It finally completed, and we got the break above the high of the signal bar. Right. Finally, we got that break, and then we talked about for the last few days pulling back and holding 50% of the previous day would have been a nice thing, and that's exactly what happened here. So let's look. If we go back and we move that overnight session out of here, this is exactly what happened last night. Actually, in last night's session, the market is continuing to follow that scheme of holding the 50%. Look at that, to the tick here in the overnight session to try to continue to push. Now, we're actually right at our next major retracement, 50% of the whole sell-off here from those highs of a couple of Fridays ago, and they're testing into it and getting a lot of trouble right now. But nice hold there right from the 50. And then yesterday, what did we say? On the pullback, going into the open, it would make a lot of sense, given we're coming out of a high time frame, multiple time frame bullish signal from the low of Monday, that a pullback to the 50% would make sense for a hold to continue to attempt to push higher. And so yesterday, what happened a little bit after the open here, we came down and essentially held 50% of the previous day. It did bounce about 2 ticks in front of it, and then we tried to push and get the bullish continuation to the upside and break the high of the day before. So all that happened yesterday. It all made sense, and we talked about this other swing here from a couple days earlier as another logical level that would make sense. So coming out of the open, we were talking about potentially holding that last major swing over here right around 44.03, and if not, coming down to 50% of the previous day would be another area that would make a lot of sense to hold. And again, that's where we held and broke out through the high of the day before. So let's go to the shortest time frames and just look at some of the details here from yesterday. And I'll try to do this a little bit quicker than I did in our pre-market yesterday, because we did spend over 10 minutes going through a lot of stuff. But essentially, here's the open, right? Here's our first level we expected to potentially hold, and we got a pop right off of it. In fact, it was enough for about 3-4 points. Unfortunately, notice where the rejection occurred, right up here around the 200 and VWAP, right? And then they came down lower, and unfortunately, if you were waiting down here to get long off 50%, again, they popped it literally 3 ticks in front. And that's just how it goes sometimes. That's welcome to the market, guys. And then, interestingly enough, got another rejection from VWAP, but then finally, you can see we got a higher low and a slightly higher low from there, and then finally we busted out, and then there is a beautiful money shot, right? Right off the 200 and VWAP. If you caught that, you caught the whole move all the way up to the high of the day. All right, so we got the bullish move that we were expecting. We got the pullback 3 ticks away from the level that I thought made the most sense. And then this right here, this pullback to the VWAP and the holy orange power level, once the market showed its face and it created a new high for the morning, got through the overnight high and held above VWAP, that right there, my friends, was probably the best trade of the day. If you got the pullback to, even if you bought the hopeful to the tick, it only took like a point of risk. If you bought VWAP, you took like a tick of risk. And then again, you got the push to the new high for the day, and we got through the high the day before. Now, here's the thing. We don't know, even though we have bias, right? We expect given the signals from Monday's low and the continuation we got going into Tuesday and bringing us into Wednesday. With all that bullish stuff, it makes sense for a push. The problem is we don't know where the bears are going to come in and swat it back down. And it could just be a push that goes 100 points, or we could have a situation like we've been having in the market recently, which is we get a little peek through to new highs, and then the bears swat it back down. And so that's what happened midday yesterday, or around the lunch hour there. We got up just about to our scaffolding, peaked up. It actually pulled back and held the scaffolding and attempted to continue to push. And then again, where did we essentially get our rejection and the high of the day? Just a couple ticks from that major retracement we've been watching, right? So if you zoomed back out, that was 50% of the whole sell-off from the highs a couple of Fridays ago. And so interestingly enough, it would have been nice, it would have been sexy if it came right to the tick and got the rotation, but it rotated again just about 3, 4, 5 ticks from it. And again, that's just how it goes sometimes. And then from there, it was basically, to me, that looked like a very textbook peak above and then the failure back down, right? So we got through, we got our crossover. If you were in our weekly webinar yesterday, there's that crossover of the 34 below the 200. And then there are those setups right off the back end of the FMA the whole way down. You could have grabbed with, again, 1 tick of risk, 2 ticks of risk as it started to fail and we got the crossover. So that's going into the lesson we had in the weekly webinar. And then interestingly enough, again, just this stuff blows me away. Right back to the major swing we were talking about being a potential support coming out of the open. So it came right back to that major swing. And then from there, it was just a total washout, right? Everything got sideways there. And again, continued to hold the close of the day before. Another discrete level we watch every single day. The reason we watch it every day is because we see this stuff happen very, very often, right? So it continued to have trouble from the close of the day before, and then finally tried to pop back up and close basically at the high of the day before there. And interestingly enough, came right to it and failed for some pullbacks to the fast moving average. All right, so, and this is actually another beautiful example of getting, and let me zoom this in a little bit, getting a nice protracted push here. Here's your 2 moving averages, again going back to that weekly webinar yesterday, and some beautiful pullbacks nearly to the tick to it, right? So that basically concludes our review for yesterday. And you can see in the overnight session, again, I mentioned this at the beginning of our broadcast here, we pulled back nearly to the tick, held 50% of the day before in our overnight session here. All right, so for 2 days in a row, coming out of, let's go back to the 60-minute, coming out of the big bullish signal and the support off the level we could basically call, there were 2 levels, 67 to 69 and 45 to 40, I guess, let's say 46 to 48, 49 there. Those were the 2 pockets I told you, and we can go back to the recording. Those were the major ones I was expecting us to potentially come down into and get the larger rotation off of, right? So we came to the first one, and that's where we got the stars aligning. We got the daily bullish signal, we had the 4-hour, we had the hourly, all lining up off a very critical level. And what do you know? We're getting the biggest rotation so far in this pullback, right? And this is probably just a nice healthy correction, right? And we're going to attempt now to continue to push higher. But remember, I'm not going to prognosticate on what's going to happen over the next few days. You never know what's going to happen here. So let's take a look this morning now at what we're dealing with coming into this morning's open.